Hey everybody, welcome to a new segment of Rapid Fire. For the first time, I've got Tim Spielman joining me. I'm Rob Drieslein. Tim is the editor of Outdoor News. We're going to go through some questions, some recent topics like we have in the past, banter about them a little bit, have a little fun with it. Abigail Dupay is going to read the questions to us, and then off we'll go. You all set, Tim? Happy to be here?
Sounds great. Yes, I'm very happy to be here. Honored, excited.
All right, off we go.
The governor's proposed bonding bill has some cash for acquisition of state natural areas. Should state sportsmen get behind this?
Kind of a softball here, I think, Tim. The bonding bill's got, I think, is it 30 mil for natural area acquisition, and it's also kind of linked to the state pheasant plan.
Yep.
It's been a while since we've had that, right? Because a lot of that has ended up in the legacy bill every year. It wasn't supposed to.
True.
I think it's a good deal. I think the governor probably deserves a little credit, and I hope sportsmen get behind it.
Yeah, there's really no reason they shouldn't, unless you're adamant against public lands, and there are people out there like that. The surplus keeps growing, so
Good point.
the more it grows, the better the odds of a lot of the things, public lands, whatever the DNR has in its bonding bill. So we'll see where that ends up. It always starts up here for on one side and down here, and it ends up here.
Right.
But it would be nice to get some WMA dollars this time around for a change. It's been a long time.
From Bonnie, because it's been a long time with the Bonnie bill. So yeah, that's good. Thank you, Governor and DNR, for including that, and fight to keep it.
The Trump administration dropped Land and Water Conservation Fund appropriations 97% in its latest proposed budget. Should this get sportsmen worked up?
I think the total is like 14.1 million, something like that, which is probably smaller than the Eden Prairie Parks and Recs Department annual budget.
Right.
We talked about this at Pheasant Fest a little bit. I think it's disappointing. We both know people who say the president's budget is DOA in Congress on multiple levels, and this is one item. But nonetheless, I think readers and listeners and viewers and sportsmen should be aware of it.
Yeah, honestly, if you talk to your average person, Land and Water Conservation Fund might not register at all. But then you look around at the projects, and there are projects in every single county in Minnesota. They range from accesses to parks.
Parks,
they're dotted all over the state, and the real shame is that these are. We always talk about our representatives borrowing or stealing, whatever word you want to use, from one source to pay for another source. And this fund was set up at a particular level. It doesn't come from the taxpayer. It comes from levies paid on offshore oil and gas leases. And if you want to talk about a fund that gets rated on a regular basis, this is one of them.
Exhibit A,
and who knows what it's getting spent for? You might not agree with every Land and Water Conservation Fund project, but I guarantee you won't be happy if you find out where it's going to in a lot of cases. So
it's an important point. This is not your tax dollars. This is money that's specifically earmarked from another funding source that, back in the 1960s.
And it was set up for a reason. Take away from our natural resources, give back to the natural resources. And it's been happening at a clip of about 1/3 to 1/2 each year.
We're usually happy to get that.
Ecstatic.
Right. So, Whit Fosberg, I believe, at Pheasant Fest brought up that this was a deal that was made to offset what was going on with these offshore oil leases. So it's almost like a treaty in a way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, a broken treaty.
There you go. That's
never happens.
Whole other kettle of worms. All right. Go ahead, Abby.
20 Minnesotans have been selected to help update the state's wolf management plan. Any reaction to committee membership?
Tim, you covered this a lot more in depth than me. I'm going to let you take the lead on it. What do you think of this committee?
Well, it is diverse. We'll find out down the line if that's good or a hindrance to actually coming up with something. A lot of people are debating what do we need to actually update? What's changed and I understand plans should be updated, whether they're a year old or 10 years old or 50 years old, they should be looked at. Now, assembling this committee that includes, interest from all over the spectrum of wolves is great. But if we're just tweaking something, I don't understand what it is we're really trying to change, except that they say social attitudes have changed. Well, gosh darn it, what happened to scientific management, you know?
Right, yeah, good point.
It comes at a time when the feds are possibly going to delist wolves, so that adds another interesting twist to wolves. It also comes when our friend Congressman Colin Peterson has introduced yet again some more legislation to delist wolves. So there's a whole lot of things going on. I worry about these things because at least they set a timeline, which is a year. So it's not exactly a short timeline, but they have to finish up their business, this committee, which ranges from farm interest to
Hardcore anti-hunting.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I have a problem with that a little bit in that if this is a state plan and we've been a little bit provincial about wolves in what the DNR has said, then why do we have some of these national groups? And I mean, some are, you know, friends of ours, and others are the Humane Society of the United States, which has no time for hunting, and in my experience has filed plenty of lawsuits, frivolous or otherwise, that have just made this go on and on and on.
Well, and our original plan is what, 20 years old roughly, and very little management has occurred from then till now. And if you go back and look at the history of outdoor news, yeah, social attitudes changed a little bit. I don't think they've changed a whole lot in the past 20 years. But
well, if anything, the people who can't control wolves, where they're having their livelihood, they're losing money in the form of cattle, and their options are pretty limited at the moment. It's like so many other things in the world. There's the sides are getting farther apart. It seems like.
Yeah, you better believe
we still get letter after letter after letter that the wolves are eating all the deer, they're eating all the moose, they're eating cattle, and we need some way to control them. And if nothing else, if the state manages it, well, they can accurately blame it on the DNR.
Right.
Instead of after all these years of saying, fix it, DNR. Well, DNR really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it at the moment.
When all is said and done, Tim, are we going to end up having a wolf season?
I don't think we will this year.
Okay. But you did put a timeline of a year on the committee.
Yep.
You think 2021?
If they're delisted,
We're waiting for the feds on that.
boy, but that's a whole different ballgame there. You've got a governor who has said he's not in favor of a hunt.
Yeah, good point.
So I think that's the true wild card.
Right.
I think there's plenty of wolves. We've had a hunt before. Things haven't gone crazy. Wolves haven't gone extinct. There should be some sort of management hunt for sure.
I agree. And I think the biologists, within the state, you know, the wildlife people would support that.
They would,
we did for a few years, right? We had a hunt for a few years and everything was fine.
Right. It doesn't diminish the herd population, but if nothing else, it gives people the feeling that we're doing something to control numbers when people have a perception that numbers are too high in some areas. So at the very least, it does that. It probably does. It doesn't hurt things.
To help prevent the spread of chronic wasting disease, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources is adjusting bans on the feeding of deer in certain parts of the state. Is this a good idea?
I'm pretty much on record. We can't do enough to try to battle CWD, so I'm on board with this.
Yeah, we can't bait deer. As far as feeding deer, I understand people like to do it. They feed their birds, they feed their deer. Way back when, I built these cool little mangers, almost looked like a scene from Bethlehem. And I'd feed deer, and they'd walk in, at night. And, well, then I kind of came around to that being not such a great idea, because it also probably brought in some bears once spring arrived. But anyhow, they got relegated to the woods, and I see plenty of deer. I get why people feed deer, but I just don't. If it's not doing deer good, then don't do it. And, it's a mindset thing.
Should the baseball commissioners strip the Astros of their 2017 world title?
We like to mix in something non-hunting, Tim, just for fun. I don't know if you and I have talked about this.
It's more controversial than wolves.
Tim and I chat a lot about sports, but you go first. I'll let you stick your neck out first.
Well, it's one of those things that I don't like to bury my head in the sand, but I do like to say, wake me when it's over sometimes when it comes to certain topics. thinking about baseball and this, and watching baseball more as a kid than I do now, probably. I think baseball has bigger issues than that. I honestly do. Maybe this is something that is right front and center right now, and something should be done about it. And honestly, until this happened, I didn't know who the MLB commissioner was.
Manfred, yeah, he's been around a few years now. I think.
Yeah, but what's he done? You know, every other sport, it seems like the commissioner's name is out there, and you hear from him or her whenever there's a topic that needs that person's attention. And I hadn't really heard much from him. That said, baseball, to me, it comes up the pace of play a lot. I mean, there are certain things that baseball needs to address.
Okay.
Now, to answer the question, I wouldn't probably go that far.
No?
Everybody cheats.
Okay, all right.
Except the Twins.
But they got caught. Astros got caught. I think they should vacate it. I feel pretty strongly they should, and I don't think they should give it to the Dodgers. I think that's getting silly, but I think they should absolutely vacate that trophy and repossess that hardware.
How about the Red Sox then? Do we go back and open that case up? And
So I'm not even sure I know.
I don't know either.
They haven't been
no,
reprimanded yet.
no,
right?
no. But it sounded like originally when this broke that there were a few teams that were being looked at
Yeah,
for
okay. Well-
potential allegations. So
When we get to that point,
Yeah.
absolutely. But anyway, that's where I fall on it.
At the DNR Fisheries Roundtable in January, there was a discussion on reducing bag limits for multiple game fish species. Where do you stand on this topic?
A lot of this going on for multiple species where I think walleyes are kind of in the crosshairs now, aren't they?
Yep.
Generally, I guess I support this. I don't want it to get so restrictive to the point where people can't go out and catch some fish. But I like what we're doing with panfish, and
Yep.
I think walleyes are probably next.
yeah, I tend to lean toward reductions just because fishing has changed so much. People catch more fish, there are people fishing. There's just more pressure on lakes. I have trouble doing it without a good reason, you know, if it's shown that this helps, and generally I'm sure, why wouldn't it, right? Although there are some cases where if you keep more fish, that's beneficial to a lake too, stunted panfish, little pike, for example. Overall, I don't think reductions are a bad idea, not to the point where people give up fishing. Since we've been at this paper, I think we've seen just people's attitudes change a lot. But things like hunting and fishing, attitude change doesn't take 10 years or 20 years. It takes a generation or two sometimes. There are a lot more people that fish to fish and have fun, which I do, but dang it, I like taking home some fish. I don't need a lot of them, and I don't look at it as a sustenance type of need, but
The one science point here, the data point is, it's pretty rare that people catch a limit. And I think generally
for
so
sure.
you really need to reduce the limit to like 2 to really have an effect out there. So that's true also. But I think on specific waters, maybe it has more of an effect.
I like what we're doing. You know, we moved on from northern pike in the 3 zones we have now. Now we're looking at bluegills, keeping the quality we have in some lakes that have shown to have potential for quality, but where that's dropped off, we're trying to get back there. And it doesn't work on every lake,
Right.
obviously. And for the person who does not like complex regulations, I think we've gone past that now.
I think, yeah.
You know, go to a lake, find it in the book, and see what it's got for regulations.
Before you wet a line.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah.
What do you make of DNR Commissioner Sarah Strommen's decision and explanation to not appeal the Parle County Board decision to the Land Exchange Board?
So this decision's almost a year old now, originally, and Sarah has explained us. She explained us right here in our conference room why she decided not to pursue that. Now the new wrinkle is the landowner suing
Yeah.
the Parle County Board over it because he says, I want to sell my land to whomever I want.
Right.
Sarah has said the reason she didn't do it is she's trying to play the long game here and work with county boards. Other folks, maybe myself, have said you got the political firepower now to stop something like this. Maybe you should have done it. I'm trying to be respectful of Sarah's position. I guess I am. And now that we got this lawsuit, I'm really curious how that's going to play out.
Right.
I don't know, Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I've written several columns on it, and I always make mention that this is what the DNR's line is, that they want to play nice, they want to create a good rapport, and this will help long term along those lines with other counties if this situation pops up, which it will, again, which I would, if I were governor for a day, I think this was where you show some strength, honestly.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
I've known county boards. I don't know this one, so I'm not going to pass judgment, but some just, it's a sign of weakness. We've talked about that before too, when the DNR doesn't press it really at all. I don't know. I'd like to have been at a board meeting and just to see how that county board reacts, because if they think there's some light at the end of the tunnel and they're making progress, well, okay, but I haven't seen one piece of evidence that shows that we are moving somewhere and this route that we've taken is working.
Yeah. Part of what bothers me about the whole thing is that I wonder how much of this is about politics. And, from the governor's office, let's play nice with farm country because there's another election coming in 2 years.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll just let Tim take off on that one, yeah.
Let me count the ways. A, their music sucks. B, their politics just drive me nuts. And C, their music sucks. And I can't understand why.
Wasn't that A?
It's funny because I have a coworker big U2 fan. And I said, Ronnie, why? Ronnie, we like the same music. We're 80s hair guys, Speaking of music that some people think sucks, but they're off base. So I don't know. And they play all the time on the station I listen to. He still hasn't found what he's looking for. Try to look somewhere else.
All right. Okay.
You want me to? I can stop. But anyway, so when they do play on my radio, I usually turn it off and then turn something on my iTunes for a little while. But I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Okay.
There was one song I liked from the Joshua Tree.
Okay.
In the Name of Love, is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's
I thought,
Pride.
hey, this song is Pride.
Yeah,
I thought this song was okay. And then there's a song that reminds me of Ross and Rachel from Friends, and I just, ugh.
All right. I think you're a little hard on U2. I think U2 qualifies as overrated.
Sure,
I definitely would agree with you. I think there's some incredible musicianship in that band. You don't have to like Bono's politics. The guy's got some pipes. The guy can sing. And the rest of the band is very musically adept. But I do feel like when a U2 comes on radio, I usually flip it off because I've heard it too much over the years. So I think maybe it's some middle ground there.
Yeah, I should add a better answer besides it sucks, but that's the best I had.
Hey, that's fun. It's been a topic du jour around outdoor news for many years. Anyway, I think with that we'll wrap up another month, I should say, of Rapid Fire. Thanks for coming in, Tim. That was fun.
You bet.
All right, and don't forget, listen to Tim and I every week on Outdoor News Radio, the podcast.